So a little over 3 years ago, I embarked on the journey of building and growing side hustles. First, it was a sticker business. I invested about $300 into a cutting machine and some sticker paper on Amazon, and I started designing and making stickers in my free time on evenings and weekends. When I posted them for sale, I wasn't expecting much, but over time, it slowly started to bring in some pretty significant money, somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 a month, depending on the season. This being one of the coolest things that I've ever done in my life, I started to share my story with friends, and some of them thought it was pretty cool too. And they encouraged me to share my story online. So that's when I started my second side hustle, this YouTube channel. Unlike my first side hustle, where I had at least some experience in graphic design, I didn't know the first thing about making videos, but I didn't let it stop me. I took some courses and watched some tutorials online, and I started making videos of my own. The early ones were rough, but I kept posting anyways. And over time, more and more people started to tune in. Fast forwarding to today, I somehow managed to get 100,000 people to hit that subscribe button. And this side hustle is now bringing in a pretty significant amount of money on its own. Needless to say, I really like side hustles, and I'm pretty much recommending them to everyone I know these days. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a list of side hustles that I think would be good to start today. And I'm going to be giving each one of them a rating based on startup costs, skills required, and passiveness. I made a video in the past where I shared some Etsy niche ideas and you guys seemed to like it. So for the first half of this video, I'm going to be doing the same thing. Also, I won't be sharing the specific Etsy shop names in this video. When I made my last video, I had less than 10,000 subscribers and my videos weren't getting that many views, so I didn't think it mattered. But now that my channel is bigger, I'm not sure if some of these stores want to be featured or not. So I'll still calculate their estimated revenues, but I won't be sharing their shop names in this one. Frame TVs are designed to look like a piece of art on your wall when they're turned off. And over the years, they've been becoming more and more convincing with their matte displays and built-in light sensors. As these TVs become more popular, there's a growing demand for art specifically made for these TVs. You can find these shops all over Etsy now, and if you're looking at this specific shop, which as of today has 34,832 sales, and they only started their shop last year in 2023. They sell their art for $4, which brings their estimated revenue to $139,328 in less than a year. Considering that these are digital files that they're selling, there's almost no cost involved, and all of these sales are mostly profit, which is pretty good if you ask me. To make digital art, all you really need to get started is access to a computer. If you want to be drawing or painting this art by hand, you might want to add a tablet, but these are relatively cheap as well, so for startup costs, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. For skills required, I feel like this could be either a 1 or a 5. Let me explain. To become a good enough artist to make something that people want to hang up onto their walls and display in their living rooms is pretty hard, and I feel like it could take many years to get to that point. So if you're going that route, I think skills required is a 5. However, if you actually take a look on Etsy and browse the listings that are selling, you'll see that some of these are actually AI generated. I'm not sure about Etsy's policies on AI art or the legality of it, or if things might change in the future, but if you're able to get people to pay for this AI generated art, then the skills required here becomes a 1. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna average this out and give skills required a 3 out of 5. For passiveness, this is pretty passive. Once you've created the art, whether yourself or with AI, and a customer buys them, you really don't have to do any extra work. You will have to do basic customer service, but that's true with any business. So for passiveness, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. There are more people starting businesses than ever before, and the ones that do start, especially today, know how important social media and reviews are. And one of the best ways to grow a following on social media is to have your customers follow you. And these QR code displays make it easy to do that. Whether you're making them out of wood or acrylic or even glass, these signs are becoming increasingly popular. I'm seeing them all over the place. Looking at this specific shop, which as of today has 43,270 sales, and they only started in 2019. With an average estimated price of $45 to $55, that brings their total revenue to $2,379,850 over the past 4 years. Since QR codes need to be displayed with a certain level of precision to make them readable, you're going to be needing an engraving machine or a laser cutter to be able to do this. And though these machines have been falling in price over the years, they still start somewhere in the thousands. So since the startup costs are so high, I'm going to be giving this a 5 out of 5. For skills required, you're going to be needing a mixture of digital and physical skills. You're going to need to know how to design these displays in whatever software that these machines require, which can be difficult sometimes, especially with these commercial type machines. They're not very user friendly. And if you're going to be making these out of wood, you're going to be needing basic woodworking skills as well, like finishing or staining or sanding. Given the wide array of skills that you need to acquire to do this, I'm going to be giving skills required a 4 out of 5. For passiveness, this isn't really a passive business. You can have basic templates that customers can choose from, but for every order, you're gonna have to customize the QR codes, and you're gonna have to physically make the signs and pack them and ship them. So for passiveness, I'm gonna give this a 1 out of 5. If you've never heard of Notion before, it's a powerful note-taking app that's been growing in popularity over the years. I personally use it to track my reading list and book notes, but there's a growing community of people that are using it kind of like a daily habit tracker to increase their productivity. I really had no idea that selling templates for Notion could be a viable business until I discovered this guy on Twitter named Easlo. He creates highly functional, minimalistic templates for people looking to track a variety of things like schoolwork, finance, health, and even travel. And one of the things that I love about him is how open he is and how willing he is to share how much he makes. Last I checked, he was making over $10,000 a month selling these templates, and he recently crossed over $500,000 in sales, which is pretty insane. Naturally, being an Etsy guy, I made a search on Etsy to see if there's any other shops doing the same thing, and I found quite a few. The specific one that I found here sells both Notion and GoodNotes templates. They've been on Etsy since 2019 and have 117,053 sales. With an estimated average price of $9, that brings their total to $1,053,477. It doesn't cost much to start a business like this. Notion and GoodNotes both have free plans, and if you have access to a computer, you can pretty much get started for free. So for startup costs, I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. If you want to make the kind of templates that Easlo is making on his website, you will need to know some basic programming logic. For example, some of his templates have this feature where it has a progress bar, and the progress bar will fill up the more and more things that you check off your to-do list. These are things that you will have to learn how to do, but it's really not that complicated, especially if you're dedicated enough to put in the time. So for skills required, I'm going to be giving this a 2 out of 5. For passiveness, again, these are digital files that are non-customized, non-personalized. You just have to make them once and you can sell them in an unlimited amount of times. So for passiveness, I'm going to be giving it a 5 out of 5. It seems like there's a lot of people out there that really like ketchup. When I first stumbled upon this, I was pretty surprised on how many people were buying them. But there does seem to be a market for personalized labels for ketchup, wine, and Nutella and things like that. This specific shop that I found opened in 2021 and has sold a shocking 207,015 of these stickers. With an estimated price of $4.50, that brings their total revenue to $931,567 in just over 2 years. If you're looking for startup costs for a sticker shop, it's really not that bad. Like I said, when I first started my sticker shop, I invested only about $300 on a silhouette cameo and some sticker paper. I eventually did upgrade to larger, more expensive machines, but it's really not needed if you're just starting out. So for startup costs, I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 5. For sticker design, you're gonna need some design skills and some familiarity with software like Photoshop or Canva. The design for these labels do look a little more involved than other stickers, but I really don't think it should take more than 3 to 4 weeks of practice to get good enough to do this. So for skills required, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. For passiveness, you will have to edit each order for each customer because these are personalized stickers. But you can use scripts to automate this, so it's really not that bad. But since these are physical stickers, you will still have to cut, print, and ship these to your customers. So for passiveness, I think I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. These days, parents are more involved in their kids' educations than ever before. And with that, you can see an increase in Etsy shops selling educational printouts and activities designed for parents to do with their kids. This specific shop that I found here started in 2020 and has racked up 111,985 sales. With an average estimated price of around $5, that brings their total to $559,925. Startup cost for this kind of shop is low. Again, you can design these type of printouts with free software like Canva. So for startup costs, I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 5. For skills required, all you really need is to be proficient in these apps, and they're really not that complicated. If you're willing to dedicate about 15 to 20 hours doing tutorials and exercises, I'm sure that you can get enough skills to be able to make these. So for skills, I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. Passiveness is great for something like this because again, these are non-personalized digital files. You make them once and you can sell them forever. So for passiveness, it gets a 5 out of 5. Next, I'm going to be moving on to non-Etsy side hustle ideas. And the first one here is user-generated content. If you've never heard of user-generated content or UGC, it's content usually in the form of video, images, text, or reviews or whatever that's produced by the end user of a product or a service. People have been creating UGC for a long time. You buy a product, you unbox it, and you talk about it on social media. What's new is that recently, more and more brands are reaching out to customers and paying them directly to create this content for them. Brands are learning that this type of content is coming off as more authentic and more engaging to their customers than their highly produced commercials or sponsored ads. I know some people who literally just picked up their phones and walked around their house looking for products that they liked and made videos about them and posted them online onto their social media accounts. They'll post it to their stories and reels and tag the companies that made them, and some of those brands will actually reach out for them to create paid UGC. The great thing about user-generated content is that unlike with typical influencer marketing or sponsorships, you don't need an audience or a following to get started. I've seen brands reach out to people with 0 following whatsoever. They just have to like your content. In terms of startup cost, it's pretty low. I'm going to be assuming that each of you has your own smartphone. And if you do, that's really all you need to get started. These companies aren't looking for fancy commercials filmed with an expensive camera. They're looking for raw content that doesn't look edited at all. So if you're able to use the built-in editors on Instagram and TikTok, I feel that's really all you need to get started. So for skills, I'm gonna be giving this a 1 out of 5. In terms of passiveness, this isn't really passive at all. You're going to be making tons of videos, and if you do get offers for paid UGC, these ones are not passive at all. You're gonna have to keep making videos to earn more money. So for passiveness, it's a 1 out of 5. It's no secret that short-form video content has been taking over the internet over the last few years. It seems like every platform has their own version of short-form content now. And with that, more and more people are looking to have this kind of content produced for them. If you spend a lot of time on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and you have a good eye on what does well on the platform, learning how to edit and make these types of videos can translate into a good business. Personally, if I was getting started with this, I would make a list of YouTubers and podcasts that I like that weren't prioritizing short form content and just turn their content into short form for free. If you're doing this and you're making high quality shorts for these creators to post on their feeds and they perform well, I feel like it's just a matter of time before they reach out to you and offer to pay you to create more for them. For startup costs, you're going to be needing a computer that's powerful enough to do video editing, as well as the software that can edit the videos. These can get a little pricey, so for startup costs, I'm gonna be giving it a 3 out of 5. For skills required, video editing is a little bit more complicated than graphic design, so I'm going to be giving it a 3 out of 5. In terms of passiveness, again, this isn't really a passive business. You're going to need to create videos to get clients, and once you do get clients, you're going to have to keep producing these videos for them. So for passiveness, it's a 1 out of 5. I don't know if I'm the only one, but on TikTok and Instagram, my feed is filled with people doing retail arbitrage. They'll go around Targets and Walmarts with their barcode scanning app, and they'll try to find products with a large price difference with Amazon. When they find one, they'll clear out the shelves and they'll list them on Amazon for a profit. Whenever I look more into this and I do more research, I'm always finding that the profit margin is just not big enough to make it worth the time, especially if you're taking into account the shipping costs and processing fees. However, if you're looking into used goods instead of new, I do feel like for some products, the profit margin is wide enough to make it worth it. This is something that I did used to dabble in a little bit when I was younger. I would go around to different garage sales in the summertime and pick up video games and toys for really cheap, like $1 to $5. And then I would take those and list them on eBay and sell them for $40 to $50 plus shipping, which is a pretty good margin. Doing some research now, it definitely looks like it's become a little bit harder for retro and collectible stuff, especially since COVID. It just seems that more and more people are aware of the value of this stuff now. But I do think it's still possible for things in certain categories. I've seen some people doing this, document their journey, and they're making over 6 figures a year doing this. And while this definitely isn't a side hustle for everybody, I do feel like it's good for people who enjoy shopping and looking around for deals. For startup costs, you don't need much to start with this one. There's always going to be people looking to declutter their homes, and they'll be willing to sell things for much less than their market value. Even if you have $0 to your name, you could always look on your local ads and find things for free, like couches or furniture, that can flip for a pretty good margin as well. For that reason, I'm gonna give startup costs a 1 out of 5. For skills, you're gonna be needing some basic bargaining skills, as well as slowly learning what kind of products do well. This is probably gonna be easier for some of you than others, but I'm gonna give skills required a 2 out of 5. For passiveness, this isn't a passive side hustle at all. You're going to need to put in the work to source the items and also to sell the items. But the reason I wanted to add it to this list is that I know there's a type of person out there that loves shopping and searching around for deals. This is the perfect side hustle for those types of people, but it's not very passive. So for passiveness, I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. Whether you want to tutor people one-on-one with a platform like Wyzant, or you want to create an online course for people to watch on a website like Skillshare, there's a ton of options out there for people who want to teach online. One thing that I do want to mention is that a lot of people think that they need to be an expert to be able to teach something to somebody. In my experience, it's actually been better to learn something from somebody who's just 1 or 2 steps ahead of you versus an expert who is so advanced that you might have trouble understanding them. So even if you're just starting out and you just have like a few months or a year under your belt in a certain subject, don't think that you can't provide value for those that are completely new. For startup costs, you're probably going to need your own laptop or computer to teach online. You might also need a webcam, but these days those are pretty cheap to get. So for startup costs, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. For skills, you're obviously gonna need a skill that you can teach others, but you're also gonna need the skill of teaching, which is another skill in itself. So for this one, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. For passiveness, this is either gonna be a 1 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. If you're tutoring and you're doing this live one-on-one with a student, then it's not very passive at all. It's gonna be a 1 out of 5. But if you're making online courses that you make one time and unlimited amount of students can watch that and pay you for it, then that's very passive. That's a 5 out of 5. So it depends on what you're doing, but I'm gonna average it out and give it a 3 out of 5. The next side hustle is YouTube. Obviously, this is something that I'm pretty familiar with now. And if I'm being honest, I still think it's one of the best side hustles that you can start today. You can make videos about any topic you want, in any style that you want, and at any pace that you want. And if you're patient and disciplined enough to keep going even when nobody's watching you, it can eventually lead to some really good income. One of the best things about YouTube is that monetization is built in. If you get enough views on your content, YouTube will pay you directly. With other platforms like TikTok or Instagram, even if you manage to build a large audience or following, you're gonna have to leverage that audience into some type of business. Like you're gonna need to sell merch or products or services to them somehow. And it's never too late to start a YouTube channel. I'm always seeing these comments saying that YouTube is too saturated now and it's impossible to grow on it anymore. But I really don't think that's the case. I see new channels popping up all the time with great videos, and given how old YouTube is, I still feel like it's a growing platform. Like the Chinese proverb says, the best time to start a YouTube channel was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So don't think it's too late. Startup costs for a YouTube channel. You're gonna need a camera and some kind of computer or device to edit on. People always say you need a fancy camera, but there's plenty of examples out there of people that are just using their phones. So I don't really think that that's true. So if you already own a modern smartphone with a decent camera, you really just need a computer and the software to edit on. So I'm gonna give startup costs a 3 out of 5. For skills required, this is a little bit of a tough one because I feel like YouTube is actually harder than what most people think. To be a successful YouTuber, you're gonna need to wear a bunch of different hats. You're gonna need to be a good writer to come up with ideas that people wanna watch. You're gonna need to become a decent videographer to film whatever it is your channel is about. You're gonna need to work on camera confidence because it's very unnatural talking to a camera and most people are just not good at it unless they've had practice. And after that, you're gonna need to become a video editor to piece everything together into a coherent video. There is a lot of skills that you need to develop, but if I'm being honest, that's what makes it rewarding, at least for me. But because you need to know a whole bunch of different things in different fields, I'm going to be giving skills required a 5 out of 5. Passiveness for a YouTube channel is pretty good. Once you've done all that work to create a video and you upload it onto YouTube, it continues to earn income forever. I'm still earning money every day on videos that I've made over 2 years ago, which is pretty amazing if you ask me. And for that reason, I'm gonna give passiveness a 5 out of 5. If you are interested in starting a YouTube channel, but you have no idea what to make videos about, you can check out this video over here. Or if you wanna learn more about my personal journey and the most important lessons that I've learned, you can check out this video over here. If not, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you found it useful. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.